So we're gonna demo our new LiDAR. So this is the company's called YellowScan, and this is called a Mapper. So when you write up your method, this is they make many different models, small to big, things that go on airplanes, things that go on drones, etc. They focus on drones. There's a gentleman that was in grad school trying to do LiDAR, studying forests, and he couldn't find a good product. So anyway, eventually he spun it. So this is a French company. So, but they sell around the world, but this is a French company. So that's the yellow thing is the LiDAR part. It's sitting underneath a Matrice 210, which is the black part, a DJI product. And so again, this is just its own baby. So it has its own power source. So it's just going to be going around. It has an internal IMU system. So similar to, because we're not logged into the drone, similar to how we use the EB, when it comes time to start it, we have to give it a physical trigger. So it has an internal IMU that's going to sense, where it is. And so the trigger is going to be, once we're up in the air, going to go forward pretty quick for a second or two, going to go backward for a second or two, then we're going to kind of go forward in an arc. And then that'll trigger it to go on. And then when we're done collecting the LiDAR data, you do the same motion, and that's the trigger to stop collecting. So just like with the EB, when we want to get it going, we have to like physically shake it. It's the same idea. So other than that, this guy's just sitting here. He's an autonomous thing. The only thing he does is he has this antenna, or it's plumbed in this antenna. But other than that, it's all just that in that yellow box, basically. So it's its own power source. Then the drone has its own power source. These are slightly different batteries than the kind that we're used to using. These are these square batteries in the back, and there's two. So you guys are used to having one, this is two. And so this is more of a heavy lift style drone. So this is more of something you'd use like cinematography, a pesticide application, something like that, where this is just the truck, and that's and the payload is doing its payload thing, essentially autonomous from the thing. And so that's how that's gonna work. And then it's gonna go do its whole stuff, and then it's gonna know where it is, but just like our regular stuff, in addition to knowing where it is, we want it to be even more precise because, and it's actually more important here than other in other applications, because this LiDAR is super accurate, right? So it can be, centimeter scale accuracy, and we want to make sure that if we're not a meter or two off or something, right, which might be fine for our regular generic orthomosaics, but not good for here. So then over here we have our, so you guys have seen this before. So this is our we used this before as to mark GCPs, for example, at Deer Creek, etc. But in this case, we're using it slightly differently. So now this right here is a cellular modem, and so this is data transmitting. This guy talking with the network, and this is CalVRS. Okay, so we have one network, and then we have another network. In this case, this guy's set up to just be independent. So we could be in Malaysia, we could be in wherever with this, and this is very precisely knowing where it is. This is our satellite receiver, and it's tracking how many satellites are above us. So just like the general principles, works better in open fields when we're in a canyon or urban environment or something that might be blocking the skyline, you get fewer satellites. But the idea is, so Zach has already turned this on, and this is going, and this is just logging. So this knows at a very precise time at 8:17:01, right, where it is, and at 8:17:02 and 03, and so it's creating a log, and it's knowing exactly where it is. And then what's going to happen after and so the data will all be processed internally. The LiDAR data will all be processed internally inside the device. But then afterwards, we'll download a file from here, which is the even more precise location data. And then we essentially can take the satellite data plus this data and tighten it up. And so again, the nice thing about this product and similar products is this is made for people doing lots and lots of work. So whereas our other stuff, when we're doing research, we're working on doing this as a one-off thing, and we have to do all the corrections ourselves. This is designed for fast workflow products. So it's designed to, you take your file, you grab this, you throw it in. Now you might need to adjust it, some fine tuning, but by default they're trying to make as much of this stuff as turnkey and easy as possible, because these are folks that are mapping a construction site today and a mine tailings tomorrow, and they don't have time to spend a couple hours on every single thing tweaking and finessing. So that's the basic principle. So what's going to happen is we're going to show you guys how to set this up, and then we're going to take off, boom, and then we're going to go. Again, we have because of this, so we can also put this, so the nice thing is this package is not wedded to this platform for life, right? We just need the right bracket, we just need the right connecting parts, but other than that, it can be on anything. So these guys are particularly agnostic, so you can put it on a custom build drone, you can put it on this and that, and what have you. They just want to make sure when we first set it up, which is what we did last Friday, there's just some initial things you got to measure exactly how far is the unit away from the antenna and some sort of stand-up issues. But once you've done that once, it's pretty much locked and loaded and good to go. So that's the basic principle. So that's LiDAR mapping, and this is going to be much more precise than our other stuff. And the last thing I should have said, I didn't point out, but it's not just a LiDAR. Can you tilt it up, Zach? So it's this guy, if I move this slide, so this is the LiDAR, or that's where the laser beam comes out and does its stuff. And then this, if I take the lens off, this is a regular RGB camera. So it's both going to take RGB and LiDAR at the same time. I think you can turn off the camera if you want, but pretty much you have it. But it's a little bit different also because of the positioning and all this and that. And because we're not making traditional ortho mosaics, or at least it's not by default, it's not making a traditional ortho mosaic. Rather, what we're going to do is similar to how you guys are used to doing your photo stitching. We sort of go up, we take a bunch of photos, photo, and then we create a point cloud, and then we stretch the photo over it. Same idea, but here primarily you're not stretching you're not creating an ortho mosaic. The default product is the LiDAR map, is the LiDAR reconstruction of the topology. And then we take the images from the camera, and for the most part, you're colorizing the LiDAR thing. So it looks like a picture, but it's a bit different. You can do orthomosaic, but the default overlap here is 50%. You guys are used to 60, 70, 30?
Yeah.
I thought you said 50.
30 to 50.
Oh, 3250. Okay. So so it's a much lower so there's still overlap. The logic is you don't want to have a gap. There's still overlap to make sure, but it's not the same level of stuff. And again, the photo, the RGB element is a secondary thing. The primary stuff is that. And even though our batteries give us limited flight time, this guy, she says, can fly for about an hour on its one internal battery, and we have a couple batteries. So theoretically, if we had a bigger honking system that had more capacity, we could map for more, let's say, half an hour at a run or something like that. But again, we're more like talking like 15 minutes, kind of more like that scale of a run with this. Is that cool? Is that a good overview? Any general introductory questions?
What was the model of the drone, and then do we have the model of that?
I mean, so this is a M210 DJI.
And the YellowScan is called like the model is called Mapper.
Okay.
So that sounds like a description, but it's actually the version of the.
And realistically, you just need any base station that can log. That is a Trimble R8S and a TSC3, but it doesn't matter. You just need a base station that can have a 1 second logging interval.
And doesn't it have to do it for an hour?
The longer, the better.
Yeah.
So if you think about like GPS precision, it's taking, as the satellites are moving, it's then just narrowing down where it is even more. So to come down, you're coming down to like, you start to get into like millimeter accuracy, which is pretty insane.
So you don't have to. It'll use whatever it has, but that comment was the recommended best practice would be an hour.
So when you were saying earlier that you can only fly for 12 minutes at a time, is that battery life, or you can
That's
only
this that's the drone battery.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So again, what you'll see when we do it, but like essentially we're going to get the LiDAR all ready, set, and go. Okay, dude, go. And then it's going to be all primed and ready to start getting shoot out laser beams. But then we have to make it move in the right pattern. So forward, back, and then curve, and then it's going to start, and it's going to go, and it's going to go until the battery dies, right? Unless we stop it. And so that will go with the internal it's an own, self-contained battery will go for an hour, but this is only going to go for about, with this amount of weight. Like if we didn't have the LiDAR on it, this drone would fly for a lot longer. But the issue is the weight. And then obviously, as you guys know, if it were to be windy, it's a little bit windy today, but it's not very windy. But if the more wind, then it's still going to be super solid and positioned well, but it's going to have to be, more energy to keep its place or keep its straight line or whatever it's doing. And so that's going to make the stuff go down even faster.
What altitude do you fly at for the LiDAR?
I mean, it depends. You don't want to go over 70 meters because then you start getting into some weird fuzziness with basically, so it's a laser, right? So the light at a certain point, it starts to diminish its strength. So they say over 70 meters, it gets too weird.
So,
you
but recommended less than that as a default. And so basically, just so we're clear here, it's not a one laser beam straight down. It's doing 245 or 54. I can't remember.
240.
240.
This is 200.
200. Okay, 200. Whatever. 200 shots every pulse, right? So it's coming and it's going like this, and it's essentially like you know when you guys water the plant, sometimes you have like a jet, then you have like the general, and they'll have like a flat one, like a flat nozzle. That's how it's working. So it's in a very narrow strip, and it's like this, and the thing is going like this, and then as we move forward, it's going. So if we fly too fast, it's gonna make a zigzag pattern on the ground, right? If you fly slow enough, it's gonna zig and probably oversample, right? So the trick is with your sight, with the topography, to sort of have it moving forward, but not forward too fast, right? Because we want to be efficient, and especially for us, since we have limited battery time, we don't want to loiter when we don't need to, right? And so what that's going to do is that's going to, like, some of them are going to be nadir, some of the laser beams are going to, and that's going to be super accurate. And then the guys that go over here are also going to be pretty darn accurate, and then pretty darn accurate, and pretty darn accurate, and pretty darn accurate. But by the time we get out to here, you're going to start to get fuzz. So that's one of the main things that Zach is talking about, is that if you're too high, it's going to be really fuzzy on the edges. And so again, we want to have overlap with those passes. So, and we're still figuring this out. We're still playing with it and figuring out the optimal thing. But so those are the issues. The issues with the LiDAR are how many emissions you have. You know, how many bursts you have per unit time per second. And so some of the units have multiple lasers, some have one, and then some have. And the other issue is how strong is the laser, right? So some of these are designed to be on an airplane. Those are much more energy release than this guy, right? So the height is both. If we're too high up, it's just we don't have if we were like 1,000 meters up, right? It wouldn't work, right? We'd be out of the range. So that's one issue. The other issue is how much on the side fuzz are we do we lose? So those are the main constraints as to how high we want to go. Cool. Any other general questions? All right, so that's our LiDAR. Okay, cool, great. All right, okay.